So I went to the theater and saw Civil War.
Oh, Civil War.
Look, it is challenging, but it was slightly different than I thought it was going to be. Because it's all from the perspective of these journalists. Already it's so off from what you think it's going to be. Not that that's not known or like possibly able to be figured out, but I just did not realize how much that would change what the movie experience would be. So your main characters are these 4 journalists, a mixture of 2 photojournalists and then 2 writing journalists, whatever that would be. So we have Kirsten Dunst, so good. Wagner Moura, who didn't know as much, but he's all over the place now.
Yeah, he's popping up everywhere. Because recently he was just in Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yep.
And I'd seen him in Shining Girls. He was really good. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, apparently Pablo Escobar in Narcos, so very serious. A little different, I think, than this role. He was very fun here, so that was different.
I do think, not to be, again, on the pronunciation thing, even though it's spelled Wagner, I believe it is Wagner.
You may think that, and he may as well, and I have said what I've said. And we're going to go into the 3rd and 4th one, which I'm equally not going to do well, but Cailee Spaeny, she was our young person in this group, and then our older gentleman in this group, McKinley Henderson.
Okay.
Yeah, at one point, not nicely, they were said, I have a kindergarten and an old folks home in the backseat.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, because it is weird, because you're the whole thing, and I don't know how accurate this is for, war journalism. There is a war happening, and you're all up in it, trying not to die. So,
which seems kind of scary and not a great idea.
Being spry, if not young, is helpful. So if you're too old to be spry, then that's a real challenge.
Ew.
And if you're too young to be smart, then that's a different challenge. In the end, it's really not about the politics, so that's very enjoyable. And otherwise, real white-knuckle, thriller kind of a deal.
Which is not usually up your alley.
I'm a big fan of the thriller that's not also a horror. That's a different thing.
That's
when it's just a normal thriller without, that is my thing.
Okay, got it.
Because, what's the difference between that and an action movie? Oh, not much. Or, depending. So anyway, quite enjoyable. There was Alex Garland, who's, had brought us quite a few good movies. This is his 4th directorial effort. Ex Machina, Annihilation, Men, which we talked
28 Days.
So he wrote that. It's interesting, the collaboration with him and Danny Boyle, because he wrote the novel for The Beach, but then he didn't adapt it for Danny Boyle's movie. But then he did write 28 Days Later and then Sunshine with Danny Boyle. So quite a lot. Yeah, he's interesting. And then Catherine, he's got the TV show Devs.
Oh, that was so good.
It turns out there's a ton of crossover. So Steven and Nick Offerman, who appears in this, and then I think there's 1 or 2 others. I'm forgetting who they are. Oh, Cailee was all in Devs. So I haven't seen Devs, but they're all from there. And then Sonoya, who comes up, she's been in apparently everything that he's directed. So she had a part here as well.
Wow, cool. Devs is amazing. And now that you mention all of those cast members, I have seen promotion for Civil War, and yeah, they're all in there. That's very interesting.
He uses, it's not all of his crew, but like the cinematographer, the music, there's something else that has been all of his. So he does use the same crew over and over again, including some actors. So that all worked well for me.
I did see a TikTok that was specifically about that. Originally, maybe this should have been called Journalists During a Civil War. And it was very funny. They were doing like a countdown to like the release. They were like, pretty soon we're going to be releasing Journalists in a Civil War. Maybe we should just call it Civil War. But that would be mildly confusing because it's not really about the Civil War. It is about the journalists in the Civil War. And then, of course, at the very end, they're like, let's just call it Civil War.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a way of coming at war that's very helpful because it's humanizing it. It's also just showcasing how terrible it is. It doesn't matter what the politics are. It's terrible for both sides. There are people dying. This is bad.
And the people that don't know, it's a contemporary modern day as if the United States was thrown into a civil war again.
We have no idea why it happens. So who knows why. But yes, civil war in terms of just one nation divided against itself.
Yeah, because you would assume based on Civil War that it would be much more about why is the Civil War happening? Who is fighting who and why and all of that.
The why or how can we stop it are neither ever talked about.
Interesting.
It's more of a zombie apocalypse we're surviving this now.
It's
we
already
don't know how it
happened. Yeah.
happened.
It's funny. I wanted to come up with a good like metaphor or something, but it was very 28 Days Later zombie-esque in terms of like we're on the road, which is dangerous, and then we're gonna stop. But like, is this place extra dangerous? It felt that was very zombie-like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, so many setups are like that in this, and you're just like, oh, what? So now in this road stop, what's gonna happen now? So
Also this idea, this idea of like trying to do a job when there's all this craziness going on around you. And that this is something that people do currently in other countries, doing war correspondence work. It's crazy.
Yep.